Question and answer Thursday. It used to be on Friday. We're doing it on Thursday this week. Let me know what questions you have. Sorry that you had no audio for the first few seconds, but hey, you have it now. So that's good. Oh man, we already have a few different questions popping in here. I'm just going to let a few of these questions queue up, and why we do that, guys, I want to tell you about a really cool case study we're running right now. Some of you guys may be familiar with it. You may be following along. It's called the $1 Million Case Study, where we're publicly starting, launching, and scaling an Amazon physical products business up to $1 million in revenue. We're sharing every detail along the way with you guys. We're donating all of the profits we make to Pencils of Promise to build schools in underprivileged areas around the world. So it's a super exciting thing to be a part of. You can learn more at junglescout.com/million. I recommend you check it out. And while you do that, I'm going to read some of these, look in the chat box for some of our questions here, and see what I can do to help you guys out. So, all right. One question we have here is, how does product research differ in the UK or the EU versus the US store? Okay. I know this is a question a lot of people have. Through this episode of the $1 Million Case Study, or this part of the $1 Million Case Study, we are launching our product in the UK. Okay. So what does this mean for you? This is cool if you're interested in selling in the EU. So we're going to be selling our product in the UK to start, but we'll probably do the pan-European thing, which means that we're going to store it in the UK, but then ship it to different locations or different orders throughout the EU. This particular question had to do with, how did the different markets compare? So the US market's by far the biggest market in the world. I think it accounts for something like 70% of all Amazon sales happening in the US market. However, roughly 10% happen in Germany, and roughly 10% happen in the UK, and the rest happen everywhere else. Some people kind of get hung up on that fact, but the thing that I'm always thinking about is, we're not Amazon. We don't really care, whether there's $50 billion worth of sales in the US and only $10 billion worth of sales in the UK or in the EU, right? That's not really that important for us as third-party Amazon sellers, because, we're not trying to, right, like capture all the sales in all these markets. Most of us are happy if we're selling $5K or $10K or $100,000 a month, and all of those markets have plenty of demand for those amount of sales. So I would encourage anyone listening to this to sell and to, launch your products in whatever marketplace seems easiest for you, because the most important part, or the most important thing here, is getting started and getting your product out there and kind of learning how the process starts. So hopefully that answers your question. Let's see what other kind of questions we have in the chat box here. I'm going to pull up, just give me 1 second. I'm pulling up some of the other chats to make sure that I can answer questions everywhere. All right. Let's see what we have here. Lots in YouTube. Excellent. So, one of the questions are, all right. Sorry, everyone, for the no sound at the beginning. I see lots of your messages now. All right. Hello, Greg. Is it true that Amazon keeps your profit for a month before paying you? Amazon, with the FBA program, Amazon makes payouts every 2 weeks. So they hold on to your money for 2 weeks before paying you. So, yeah, good question. Hi, Greg. Out of curiosity, aside from anything to do with Jungle Scout, what kind of revenue are you doing monthly from PL? And can you remember what year you launched your very first product? So I think I launched my very first product in, let's see, 2017. Wow, it was longer ago than I thought. let's see, I think I launched my very first product 5 years ago. Okay. Within about 6 or 8 months, I was making enough money from it to be able to quit my job as an engineer. So I was working full time as an engineer. I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't very happy with it. So I wanted a way out, and selling on Amazon was my way out. So I didn't start right away with private labeling. It took me a little bit of time before I started with that, because at the time there wasn't as much like education and information as what there is now. So I actually didn't know it existed. Now all of my products on Amazon are private label products, so it's not quite as kind of like clear cut. Since when I started, I was selling a lot of wholesale products as well. But I was able, like I said, I was able to, within I think 6 or 8 months of selling, be able to replace my engineering income with profits, which yeah, that was a big milestone for me. That was when I was able to quit my job as an engineer, sell on Amazon full time, and that's kind of like I think of that as like the real like start to kind of like my Amazon entrepreneurial journey. Good morning, Greg. What's the best way to start with about $3,000? Low cost, higher volume, or higher cost, less sales? So $3,000 is plenty to start selling on Amazon. What I would encourage you, John Michael, and I really encourage this for most people nowadays who starting on Amazon. If you're just trying, of course everyone wants to make some money, but you're trying to learn. I would recommend actually finding a niche that's like very low competition. So when I say that, I would say I would look for something that say has in the top 10 sellers, there's maybe like 5 or 6 sellers with under 50 reviews. And even if there's not a ton of demand in that particular niche, like, I often say I look for, like, for me personally, I look for at least like 3,000 units of demand throughout an entire niche. I would be willing to sell in something that maybe only has like 1,000 units or 2,000 units of demand a month. But the lower competition is really beneficial for people starting out, especially if you're starting out on a lower budget, less than $3,000. So hopefully that answers your question there. Let's see what else we have. I'm gonna pull up. Sometimes I can be a little bit unfair, and I answer too many in one platform, not the other. So let's see. How do you get in contact with some of the higher up employees and not just customer service representatives? Honestly, you don't really. If a customer support representative can't answer your question, sometimes they'll escalate it to someone else. But in general, it's very difficult to get a hold of a good customer support rep at Amazon. I know it can be frustrating, but unfortunately, it's just kind of part of selling on Amazon. Is Amazon going to restrict new sellers for Q4 this year? I haven't heard anything about it yet, although I don't think they gave us any warning last year. We just found out one day that they did restrict it. I'm going to guess no, but nobody really knows for sure since Amazon hasn't made any official announcement on it. But what I have been telling people, if you are worried about that, for example, if you just placed an order for like a PL product, it's going to arrive, let's say like in October or November. What you can do, in my opinion, this is like a legitimate kind of like hack around this, would be that you could send in like 1 unit into Amazon right now and just sell it through Amazon. And when I say 1 unit, I mean like you could just go to like Walmart or wherever else, buy 1 unit, send it into Amazon and sell it there. And then all of a sudden you're no longer like a new seller because you have sold something on Amazon. If I remember right, the only people that were restricted last year were people who had never sold or had never sent in a shipment to Amazon before. So I think that would work. Also keep in mind, last year was the only year that Amazon's ever done the thing about like restricting new sellers. So I wouldn't let it slow down my process at all. If selling in the UK, do you still pay Alibaba manufacturers in US dollars? Yes, in general, US dollars is the most common currency accepted by these factories in China. At least that's been my experience. All right. For my first order, I'm shipping by air, so what should I be asking the manufacturer when it comes to pricing? FOB is only for shipping by ocean freight, correct? Good question. If you're shipping by like air courier, which would be like DHL, FedEx, or whatever else, then you can ask for Xworks pricing. So it's like EXW instead of FOB. And that means that for FOB pricing, for anyone who doesn't know, that means the factory is factoring in the cost of what it takes to get the product from their factory to the port. But if like DHL or TNT or UPS or whatever is picking up from the factory in China, then they obviously won't have that cost. Is using third-party barcodes okay? I would like to avoid the fees with GS1. Technically, I apologize, my camera keeps kind of going in and out of focus. I don't know why. Technically, Amazon says you have to use GS1 barcodes, okay? So I tell you that because take this, the next thing I tell you here, understand the risk associated with it, is that I, on my products, don't have GS1 barcodes, and I've never had a problem with it. Keep in mind that I do plan, like all my older products I have brand registry with, my new ones that require a trademark for brand registry, I plan on getting that. And then once I do, I'm going to change the identifier for my product from the barcode to like the model number. So, once you do that, then it's not a problem at all because you're not using like the UPC code anymore. So, but there is, if you don't have a trademark yet, I guess there is like a time period of 4 or 5 months or whatever where you are using that like non-GS1 approved barcode. I've never, it's actually not, wouldn't be called a barcode, a GS1 UPC. I've never heard of anyone getting in trouble with it, but I guess kind of tread at your own risk. Like I said, I haven't had any problems with it. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. You mentioned that in 5 and 6 years, Amazon might not work anymore. I'm afraid if I cancel my job in 2 or 3 years, Amazon becomes too competitive. Something you need to understand as an entrepreneur, if you choose to quit your job and go down the path of entrepreneurship, that it is a very dynamic and ever-changing environment, and you'll have to continue education for the rest of your life. So especially, with technology now, and with selling online and everything else, things move very quickly. So 5 or 6, but what you have to understand and what you have to appreciate and love with it is that by becoming an entrepreneur and by generating more money than you have with a normal job and by learning all these things you do on a day-to-day basis, like all these opportunities in the entire world kind of open up. And I've never does it seem like entrepreneurs have the problem of not knowing what to go into next. More so it's it's never not having enough opportunities to go into. It's where do I want to devote my time, right? For example, I started with selling on Amazon, then I started Jungle Scout, then we launched some other apps like Fetcher and Splitly and JumpSend. So, and I know 1,000 other projects that I would like to take on, and I'm confident that you'd be the same way. So, you might decide to be selling on Amazon for a few years after you quit your job. Then you decide, okay, maybe I want to sell my Amazon business, because at that point you've created an asset that you can sell. So maybe it's okay, I'll sell my Amazon business. Maybe you get $500,000 or $1 million out of that. Then you can use that to create a different business or invest differently. So, I can tell Thorben Meyer that you're going to have to change your thinking a little bit about becoming an entrepreneur. It's not so much, will the opportunity that I'm doing right now be available in 5 or 10 years? It's more so you need to be continuously learning and growing. And then, there's all kinds of opportunities. Should I do trademarking before I start selling with Amazon? Zoltan Tot asked this. Keep in mind that a trademark's not required to sell private label products on Amazon. Okay, that's the first thing you need to understand. A trademark is only required on Amazon in order to get brand registry. Brand registry is not required by any means to be a private label seller, though. It has some benefits, and that's why I'm sure you hear people talking about it. But no, you don't have to have a trademark to start selling on Amazon. Yeah, that's all there is to it. So Um, when you launch, is there a way to limit how many coupons a customer can have at a discounted launch price? Yes. Well, you can't. All right, so let me explain. So when you give away coupons, like during your launch process, with Amazon's coupons, you can make them single use, and that means that the coupon only works one time, so they can't use the coupon and then give it to a friend, or use the coupon and then place another order and use the coupon again, okay? So that's one important thing to understand, single-use coupons, all right? Now, Amazon in their platform doesn't have any way for you to limit the amount. Well, half the people have this, I guess, but in the promotion section, so in the coupon section of Amazon, there's no way to limit how many units you can purchase with a single coupon. However, the way around that is by limiting the inventory, like by limiting the max purchase quantity. So for example, if you're using JumpSend, this is what, like a lot of people, I guess, I'm sure are using. It's one of our products at Jungle Scout. But is, I imagine what a lot of people in the chat box are using to do their launch processes. We limit your inventory for you. So it's like a very like nice and cohesive process. So you create your coupons in Amazon. Maybe you create 100 coupons. Each coupon can only be used by one person one time. Then what we do is we limit the max purchase quantity for anyone who purchases your product, and that's including a coupon or not. So during your launch phase, when you're giving out these coupons, everyone is limited to one coupon, and they can only purchase one unit at a time. So hopefully, that was probably what you were asking. Yeah. Let's see. Should I private label that water bottle you just drank from? Yeah, if you want to. This one's by Hydro Flask. How do you do brand registry? Brand registry is easy to do. It's inside of the Amazon platform. But if you just Google brand registry, it'll probably be the top result. But it's just pretty simple. It's like a 5 thing form to fill out. It's pretty easy to do. You just follow Amazon steps. Super easy. All right. Here's a good question. I know some people have this, so I'll answer this. Gave away 20 units. Then just last week, I had 2 people resell it. A lot of problems for me because, they're saying I can't edit my listing. I lose the buy box, and I can't run PPC. It's incorrect that you can't run PPC. PPC just doesn't show up if you don't have the buy box. But that there's no way to prevent people who purchase your product to resell it on Amazon. That's not like against Amazon's terms of service. With JumpSend, yes, that is against our terms of service, and we very actively ban shoppers who we catch doing that. However, if it's the first time a shopper has done that, they've already purchased your product and they're reselling it on your listing. But what I always say is, like, it's not that big of a deal, okay? Like, 2 people reselling your product on their listing, like, it sucks because they took away 2 of your sales, but that's all it really is. So that's just kind of part of business, one of like the little hardships about it. So you just have to kind of move on. Could you please tell us more about AMS and how you can be eligible for it? Christian Diakonu asked this. If you go back in the $1 million case study, I did 2 episodes specifically on AMS. So if you go to junglescout.com, go to our free resources, find the $1 million case study. There's 2 really in-depth webinars, each an hour, just on AMS. But the gist of it is you have to enter Vendor Express. After you enter Vendor Express, and I talk about all the steps to do so, then you get access to AMS, and that's when you have the ability to do the headline ads and the little ads you see like below the buy box on product listing pages. So let me see let me switch from... Did you say PPC only works when you have the buy box? I'm confused. So Amazon, if there's multiple people selling the same product, Amazon rotates who has the buy box. But keep in mind, when you run PPC, let me clarify here. When you run PPC, if someone clicks on your ad, then Amazon will make sure that you have you'll have the buy box when someone lands on the product detail page, okay? So you'll never pay for PPC to send people to a listing that has someone else in the buy box. That's not how it works. When do you reckon we should trademark? I've tested the market with 200 units, and now I'm waiting for another shipment of 300 units. Should I trademark now? Ali Hamidi asks this. Congratulations. It sounds like you found a good product because you reordered 300 units. So first of all, congrats on that. As far as trademarking goes, like I said, the reason everyone right now in the Amazon space is talking about trademarking is because a trademark's required to get brand registry for on Amazon. So trademark's required for brand registry. Brand registry is not required, however, it is nice. It helps make sure that you have sorry, I'm trying to read the chat and answer you guys at the same time. It's not a good idea, so I need to block that out. It helps you make sure that you have control of your listing. They're rolling out some new stuff like uploading videos to your listing that's only available for people with brand registry. It's also cool for other things like you can now do headline ads inside the Seller Central platform, but it's only available if you have if you're a brand register for the product. So to answer your question, when should you do brand registry? Kind of whenever you feel comfortable with it. It's going to cost you a few $100s. Is this the point that you want to invest a few $100s to then be able to gain access to these things that are like nice to have for Amazon sellers? Or is that money better used right now ordering more inventory or launching a new product? So hopefully that answers your question a little bit. All right. What else do we have here? In the baby towel case study, you spoke with an Amazon rep that opens new accounts. Would it be best to wait for their assistance in Q1 if you can get it, or go for it ASAP without him when you're new? I just go it right now. Those Amazon reps, they don't really help much. Yeah, just go for it now. You can ask them a few questions, but they're not very helpful at all. Without a trademark, can we still ask Amazon to remove a hijacker? You cannot ask for Amazon to remove a hijacker, really, whether you have a trademark or not. It doesn't really matter. So keep in mind that on Amazon, you don't really own the listing. You are selling your products on Amazon's listing. So it's not against Amazon's rules for other people to sell the product on this Amazon listing, as long as it's not like counterfeit or whatever else, okay? So that's something important to understand. So if you private label a product and you don't sell wholesale to people, so someone might ask me to buy 500 of my Jungle Snugs. If I sell them 500 units of my Jungle Snugs, they could then go on to sell it on the Amazon listing, and that's not against Amazon's terms of service. So a trademark doesn't really protect you from people doing that. If the product's counterfeit, so if someone tries to sell a product on my Jungle Snugs listing, but it's not a Jungle Snugs branded product, if it's like a different brand, then that's different. That's a counterfeit product, and at that point you can report that to Amazon, and Amazon takes that very seriously. It's likely they'll shut down their account if they catch them doing that. Is your brand register name the same name your Amazon seller name / business name LLC, or all three different names? It doesn't matter. Those can all three be different names, or they could all three be the same name. So the brand register name, that's whatever the brand is of your product. So my hooded baby towels, I named that brand Jungle Snugs. So that's the brand of my product. The seller account name, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be the same thing as your brand name. It could just be something totally random. And that has nothing to do with the LLC or whatever you incorporated under. So feel free to do all those as the same, or all three different, or two the same and the other one different. It doesn't matter. Does Amazon offer click rate stats on pics posted for a product? Amazon offers sessions data. So that's how many times people click on your listing. I don't know what you mean though on pics posted for a product. Sorry, if you want to try to put that in the chat box, I can try to answer that again. Let's see what else we have here. Is it necessary to send a sample to your house? No, not really. If you want, you could have your sample inspected somewhere else. If you want, you could technically not even inspect the sample or get any samples. I know some people who do that. So it doesn't really matter where you send your sample to. I would recommend getting a sample, but that's up to you. How is with listing under existing sellers? Is it typical for the shipping cost from China to be 70% of a product cost? My product cost is $550 and the shipping is $380. I plan to sell it for $29.99. This totally depends on what method you're using for shipping. So, Air Express is going to, like, Air Courier or Air Express is going to be the most expensive. Air Cargo is going to be the next less expensive. Ocean freight is the cheapest, as long as I guess there's enough units in there. So that's so hard for me to tell without knowing more about your product. Like if you're shipping like some big heavy product, like bags of sand or something, then the shipping might be like 10 times as much as the product cost. If you're shipping something that's small and lightweight, like a piece of like electronic, like let's say a little hard drive or something, your product might cost $30 and the shipping might only be 50 cents. So at that point, it would only be a few percentage points. So that totally just depends on the type of product, the weight, the size, how many units you're shipping, and what method you're using to ship. So sorry I couldn't help more on that one. Hey, Greg, if you start with $8,000, what is a reasonable development of the business? How long to have 3, 6, 10 products in general? Good question. And again, questions like this are really hard to answer without knowing, if you want to launch 10 products that are relatively inexpensive and non-competitive niches, then you could start with lower orders, like maybe only 100 units at a time. And if that's the case, you could probably launch 10 at the same time with $8,000. Of course, that's a little bit extreme example, but you kind of know what I mean there. I will say that the process to launch a product is kind of time consuming. So from the day that I choose my product to the day it lands in Amazon's warehouse, it's very realistic for that to take like 2 months, maybe even 3 months if you're shipping by ocean, okay? So if you wait for the first product to get into Amazon before you start like doing your research for the next one, this could potentially be like a pretty long process to get to like 10. However, if you want to start by launching like 3 products at the same time, that would be a little bit different. So again, it kind of depends on your risk tolerance, how comfortable you are with it, the price of your products, your order quantity, that kind of stuff. Let's see. Let me switch and get some few different questions here. All right. One on Instagram that says, what are the benefits of bundling? The benefits of bundling, or why people talk about it or why people recommend it, is because it is a way to differentiate your product from others. So for example, my hooded baby towel. I bundled my hooded baby towel with a baby washcloth. So now I have a washcloth and a hooded baby towel. So this is like an additional, like the washcloth costs like 25 cents or something. It was like pretty inexpensive. And it's a way for me to separate my product from the competitor's products, okay? So that'd be the main reason for bundling. Oftentimes you can bundle in a product that's pretty inexpensive and it adds value to it. And maybe that's like hopefully that's like the little something that a person needs to choose your product over one of the competitors. Do reviews still matter for rankings? No one knows for sure what Amazon uses for their keyword ranking kind of like methodology. However, I'm very confident the major factors that go into ranking a product for keywords on Amazon is sales velocity is number one. Or I should say number one is keyword relevancy. So if you search for water bottles, they're going to show you water bottles. Okay. Number two, I'd say is then sales velocity. So how many units does this product sell? How many has it been selling lately? Another big one is the conversion rate. So a lot of things are going to go into the conversion rate, right? This might be the number of reviews, because that's how much social proof you have, what images you have for your product, how good they look, what the price is, how good the value is, how well your sales copy is. All these things go into the conversion rate. So I think those are like would be like the three big things. So hopefully that answers it. So reviews do go into the conversion rate. So, but keep in mind, like 500 reviews doesn't necessarily mean your conversion rate's better than a product that has like 20 reviews, right? It's more so like just overall kind of like the quality of your listing. So, but in my opinion, Amazon doesn't directly factor number of reviews into your keyword rankings. How much money did I spend to launch my first private label product? I think I spent $2,000 or $3,000 to launch my first private label product. I think you can pretty easily do it with $2,000 or $3,000. If you have like under $1,000 to spend, you're gonna have to be like pretty scrappy and like you probably have to go into something that's not too competitive. If you have a few $1,000s to spend, then it should be fairly easy, very achievable. What keyword planner do you use to find your keywords? I use a combination of the Google Keyword Planner. Unfortunately, if you don't spend any money on AdWords, I think it's pretty limited. I'm not too familiar with it if you don't, because I do spend quite a bit on AdWords for Jungle Scout and my other business. Keyword.io is a good one. Those are the main two I'd use. All right. Once you finish your listing, do you just leave it be or try marketing and get the ranking higher? Once I finish my listing and my launch process, the only really thing I do to my listing after that is run split tests. So it doesn't take very long to run a split test. I use splitly.com. Again, it's one of our products, so of course I'm biased, but as far as I know, it's the only split testing tool on the market. I split test the main image, I split test the price, I split test different things to try to improve it to hopefully then get more sales. All right, let me see here. Is there a way to check how much your PPC price rates are for your product research? Not really. There's no good way to do it. There's like a few hacks, but it's like pretty time consuming or like pretty like inefficient and really hacky. On all of my products as a total throughout 2016, and this is still relevant today, I believe, I spent it was like 4.7%. So we'll round up to 5% of my total revenue on PPC. So if my total revenue for the year was $100, that means I spent $5 on PPC. So I think you can use that as a good rule of thumb. Keep in mind that's not the same as your ACoS, your advertising cost of sale, because for your ACoS, they only factor in people who clicked your PPC ads and then purchased the product. So, your ACoS might be 20, 30, 40%, but if we look at all of the revenue as a whole, mine was about 5%. So I think you can use that as a rule of thumb. Anyone have a Splitly promo code or discount? I don't think there's any promo codes or discounts out there. Sorry. Let's see. Need to plug my computer in a different outlet to make sure I don't lose you guys. Let's see. We'll take a question from Instagram over here. All right. Hey, Greg, you mentioned about printing Amazon label on a retail box on a previous webinar. Can I just ship it to FBA Center without any notice? No, you create a shipment inside of Amazon Seller Central. And once you do that, they tell you where to ship your particular product to. If you print the FN SKU on your box, then you don't need to put any label on there, but you do have to tell Amazon how many units you want to ship in, and then they tell you what warehouse to send them. So you do give them notice, and they give you so you give them notice, and they give you the labels, and they tell you where to ship it to. What niches do you see trending for the fourth quarter? Anything that's going to be likely given as gifts. So, of course, toys and games are very hot in fourth quarter. Anything else that are popular gift products, that's all the stuff that does really, really well in fourth quarter. But keep in mind, I still prefer to look for products that do well year round and not necessarily play like the very limited seasonality type game. If your product's manufactured in China, do you have to label your product made in China? Yes, you do. That's part of the customs or importing laws. How much money would you say is a good amount to launch your first product campaign? Realistically, it's probably going to cost you about $2,000 to do a proper private label launch. If you have less money than that, there are other things that you can do. Start off in a very low competitive niche, do like a smaller order quantity. But like if you're trying to do a launch like we are through the $1 million case study where it's like a little bit bigger launch, we order quite a few units at a time, then you need, I'd say a minimum probably like $2,000. If you formed an LLC in the US, does that protect you in the UK? So I'm not, of course, not a lawyer here, but from my understanding, this is a good question. I don't want to answer this because I don't want to tell you wrong. But like, I guess if I were to guess, I'm pretty sure that like if something were to happen in the UK, they would need to probably come to the US. This is my understanding, of course. All right. Like I'm not a lawyer. They would need to come to the US to try to like sue you for anything you could be liable for. And at that point, the LLC in the US would protect you from the liability side of it. I don't think they would have like jurisdiction to file like a court claim for you in the UK. Cause like, what are they going to do? Like they can't really force you, right, to like fly from the US or wherever you live to the UK to like see you and trial there. They might never allow you back in the UK if you ever try to go on holiday there, but that would be my understanding of it. Let's see. So we cannot decide where to ship the product? No, you cannot. Amazon tells you where you have to ship your product, unfortunately. What do you guys do for product photo? Do you guys use Chinese photographer? We've been doing our product photography from productphotography.com. They've been the ones that do my products. They did the Jungle Sticks and the Jungle Snugs and stuff. But there's tons of them. If you Google, there's tons of places that do product photography in the States. I'm sure there's some in China too, but I've never personally used them. Hi, Greg. Can I avoid income tax if I move to a different country every month? Good question. You're going to have to talk to a tax professional about that. I'm no tax expert. I leave that to the pros. It's way too boring. All right, guys, we have time for only one more question. We got to cut it a little bit shorter tonight. Sometimes I go for an hour, even though I originally started these things only saying 30 minutes because I'm in Budapest right now and the whole team's here. So we have dinner tonight and I got to join them. All right. I'm trying to get a good one for our last question. So this is a good one. When you place your first order on Alibaba for a product, can you have the product sent directly to Amazon? Yes, you can, and that's what I do, and I prefer to do because I don't want to like deal with all these boxes and crap, having to like unload them, load them back up, and whatever else. So yes, you create a shipment plan. Amazon tells you where to send your inventory. You give those locations to the Alibaba supplier, and at that point, or your freight forwarder, depending on how you're shipping, and you ship from the factory in China, wherever it's being manufactured, straight to the Amazon distribution centers, and you don't have to touch it, which is really nice. And I'll just get a quick shout out to Ali Hamidi in the Facebook chat. He said, I started 6 weeks ago and I broke even for my first 100 sales and I started to profit on the other sales. Congratulations. It sounds like you're off to a good start. And I wanted to read this out loud because this is what I want everyone to understand and expect, that on the first 100 sales or, give or take some, expect to like just break even because you're doing giveaways to get additional sales. You're running like your PPC costs are higher. You have to pay for product photography, all this kind of stuff. So if you break even after 100 sales, you're doing pretty good. And remember, this is like a long-term game, right? Ali has built this business and this listing that hopefully will make him money for a long, long time to come. So understand it costs a little bit of money to get started, but after that, you have a nice business that will make you money. So that is it for tonight, guys, today, wherever you're at in the world. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you could hit the little like button or the heart, or if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. I always get stoked when I see the little hearts and the likes and the subscribes and everything else, and it really helps other people help find the Jungle Scout channel. And I will see you next week, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. Take care. Bye.